going to build the wall, and who's going to pay for the wall? So you better believe it.
But guess what? Looks like Mexico is not going to be paying for the wall, and neither are we. President Trump wanted around $20 billion in border wall funding, but only got $1.6 billion in the budget for just border security. And when you read closely, only 92 miles of wall are allowed to be built. And by the way, the border is 3,000 miles long. And the wall can't even be made by the concrete prototypes that the president just surveyed. Joining us now is Counselor to the President, Kellyanne Conway. Kellyanne, what happened to the wall funding?
The wall funding has begun. It's not everything the president wanted. He made very clear today. Well, but he made Jesse, this is a town that not so long ago was mocking the very idea of a wall, and now they're giving billions of dollars worth of funding toward it. That's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, very small
I'm sorry,
step.
it is. And this president made very clear that he will not sign another bill like this again. He said, don't even bother sending me one. Nobody had time to read the 2,000 pages. It's filled with stuff that the president clearly said is a waste and things that he doesn't like and doesn't want in there. But he's not going to leave our military, our troops, unfunded and underfunded the way they have been for so long.
And that's fantastic. He got everything he wanted on military spending, but he didn't get that much on the border. It's disappointing.
It's historic funding for the military. It's historic funding for the military.
Great.
The disappointment is shared. But everybody wants to put the perfect before the good. You've got to start somewhere. And the president made very clear there's a lot in this that he doesn't like. There's a great deal that he does like. That military funding is certainly the first pay raise for our troops in a very long time, and they deserve it. At the same time, it's also for new equipment. The president listed out many of those. Yep. There's also $6 billion for opioids funding. There's school safety funding.
Desperately needed resources.
And
how is the president, though, Kellyanne?
You can focus on the negative side of the ledger or the positive, but he said, don't do this again, guys.
Yeah, how is he going to change the dynamic so something like this doesn't happen again?
He's going to tell them next time, don't even send it, or I'll veto it.
Are Democrats ever going to vote for border wall funding?
Well, they should. They should. Remember, they pretended that everything they cared about with respect to immigration was DACA, were the dreamers. Where are they now? The president came to the table. He said, I won't even just take care of the 600,000. I'll do all 1.8 million.
Yeah, he offered them everything.
And the Democrats disappeared. They disappeared. Yep. They scattered like cockroaches when you throw a light on. I mean, really, where are they? Where are they to help these people that they pretend they're trying to help? The president has said it in the past, and I agree with him, that maybe they just want this to be a political bludgeon. They're not really trying to help them.
They're politicizing it. They don't want anything done on the Dreamers. We know that.
But the president's remained consistent. He's always said the centerpiece of his immigration policy is the wall. Why? Because we have to keep people from coming into our country illegally and staying here. And we also have to keep the poison out. We've got so much poison coming over the southern border and into our communities.
Yeah, I mean, the narcotics are flowing in. How about this idea? Maybe he gets Wilbur Ross and maybe Betsy and maybe himself. They can all pony up some of their own cash to start some of the wall.
I'd expect to hear that in a different station. I mean, that's just silly. But
I know, but Kellyanne, you have to understand the disappointment after running on building the wall and then failing to get adequate funding. It's just disappointing. I'm not necessarily blaming the president. I mean, Congress is equally to blame. I just don't think either party really wants it that badly.
But why is it equal blame when the president executes the laws and the Congress passes them? The people in the Congress did not, by and large, run on building the wall and funding it. They actually many of them ran against it. So let me repeat myself.
I agree.
This is a town that's been
we're
against
disappointed
because
we had higher expectations.
And now they're trying to fund it. Well, so does the president, and he made very clear today that he expects that to continue. But he also made clear something that none of you are covering, respectfully. He said the construction actually starts this Monday. They'll start taking even more concrete steps towards the wall this coming Monday.
Reinforcing a lot of the wall, and
that matters.
They're adding some backup wall. I understand. I get it.
I just want to repeat what Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen in today's press announcement also, that was important because she said she wishes that the Congress had listened to the men and women on the front lines who are trying to secure our homeland, and that they made specific requests that had not been met. And she's absolutely right. We have to listen to the people, the brave men and women who are telling us they need more reinforcements and more resources.
All right, let's move on to John Bolton, who the president has now nominated for National Security Advisor. That did not go over well with some of the doves on the left in the mainstream media. Here's a little sampling of their reaction.
This may be the worst thing he's done. He said to them, no more stupid wars. Now he brings in the godfather of stupid wars, John Bolton.
I think that the risks of a war, of a shooting war with Iran and North Korea are substantially greater than they were this morning. I think it dramatically increases the risk that a lot of Americans and Koreans, perhaps Japanese, end up dead.
John Bolton, he is the hammer and everything is a nail.
It's like a kid throwing all his toys in the air. Just throwing all the toys in the air. I'm mad. I'm getting rid of everything.
I mean, Matthews sounds like the child. I mean, come on, Kellyanne. John Bolton's a great diplomat who's had decades of experience in international relations.
Ambassador Bolton has a very considerable and impressive list of accomplishments and resume to boot, as does Larry Kudlow, who's also coming in. These men who have storied careers, who don't need another chapter in public service in Washington, D.C. at this time with these intense work hours you have, but want to serve this president's agenda and want to serve this country. And I have to point out two things from the hyperbolic hyperventilation that you showed that's really a rich irony I want lost on no one. Jesse, number one, what did the media do last August when the president said the fire and fury, the likes no one has ever seen when it came to North Korea? The media went crazy. They had a panic attack. And now he's saying, I'm bringing them to the table under conditions of my making, and they're attacking him for
Isn't that unbelievable?
So it just shows
it's no matter what he does, they're going to react the opposite way. I mean, he could then he could denuclearize the North Korean peninsula, and they could say, "Oh my gosh, now we're going to war against China." He never gets a break.
It's funny you mentioned nuclearization, because my next point was going to be about Iran. That person, I can't see who it is because I'm looking at a blank camera. Mercifully for him, the person who's saying, oh, you know, it increases the number of Iranians and North Koreans and Americans who will die. Does that person support what President Trump and Ambassador Bolton do not, which is this Iranian deal that President Obama and his team put together that many Americans find very offensive, that you and others have covered quite truthfully?
I mean, Obama's giving them billions of dollars of cash, and they're not scared about that. I mean,
and we don't want Iran. We don't want a nuclear-capable Iran, who, of course, is pointing that right at has Israel in its sights. But you just do see the hypocrisy, and I don't believe the president is making his personnel decisions based on what the reaction is going to be from his detractors and the mainstream media. Yet I repeat myself, he's making them based on folks who are going to support his agenda. And I do want to say that General H.R. McMaster is retiring after 34 years in the Army, and that deserves a great deal of respect. He was here when the president came up with his Afghani policy, when the America First national security strategy went forward. And as the president pointed out yesterday, General McMaster has been here at the White House as the NSA director when a lot of big things happen around the world, including getting North Korea to the table, trying to stabilize parts of the Middle East, and putting ISIS in retreat, if not on full-on defeat.
I mean, he's had quite a run at that spot over at NSC, and you know, we all owe our great gratitude and thanks for his service.
NSC, excuse me.
I want to ask you about James Comey, because Mr. Comey's now going on a publicity tour for the book. And this is just some tweet that he ripped off the other day. He said, all should appreciate the FBI speaking up. I wish more of our leaders would, but take heart. American history shows that in the long run, weasels and liars never hold the field so long as good people stand up. Not a lot of schools or streets named for Joe McCarthy. So he's going to be taking this message to MSNBC and Stephen Colbert and The View. I'm sure Joy Behar is really going to ask him the tough questions about fixing the Clinton investigation and the FISA abuse.
I'm sure not, and never under oath. Remember, people on TV and doing their book tours are never under oath. But we've seen what's happened in the past when certain people have been under oath. They've had a very difficult time getting the story straight and sometimes telling the truth.
Yes, he did.
But that tweet that you read in full is another reason why we shouldn't have 280 characters. I have a lot about nothing, but he'll have his say, but so will the president. The president and others will respond. And let me make very clear
really quickly
that there are 25,000 men and women working at the FBI and the rank and file. We respect them and their service enormously.
Yes, we
When
do.
the president talks about FBI, he's talking about a couple of bad apples who should not have been in charge of an investigation or should not have continued to be in charge of an investigation if they had some of these true conflicts.
You're right.
And so
a lot
I
of
don't know if
difference
that'll
between
be
the
addressed
brass
in the
and the
book.
boots.
But
Yeah.
sanctimony, I know, is never in short supply in Washington, D.C. We'll see how it goes. But you're right. There'll be a love affair and a love fest by those who buy into a certain philosophy.
All right.
But anyway,
Thank
we'll
you
see
so
what happens.
much. Kellyanne,
Take care.
always nice having you on.
My pleasure.